So I've been getting one question a lot from my friends who are thinking about going into teachers college, and that is, what work-life balance do you have between teachers college and your personal life? So I thought I would just take a few minutes a day to address that. Now starting off, I think it's no surprise that teachers college is busy. There's a lot you have to do. You are constantly making lesson plans and unit plans. You constantly are having to do journal entries and reflections off a ton of readings that you have to do every week. And then on top of that, you have practicum and teaching, making portfolios, resumes, cover letters, applying to jobs, interviewing, applying for your professional certification, and that whole process. So again, it is a very, very busy time. And it is really important to understand going in is what are you going to have time for outside of that? Now for me, as many of you might be able to see, I got married this past summer. So starting off, what does my personal life look like? Well, generally on days that I'm teaching, I'm teaching for 8 hours a day. I'm getting up before she gets up. When I get home, I'm either preparing dinner or working on assignments or doing course readings. And then we have dinner, I do some lesson planning for the next day. And then all in all, maybe each night, we only get to spend about an hour, maybe hour and a half before bed together. And then on top of that, teachers college does prevent you from doing other things. So for example, right now, I have zero time to perform hobbies outside of this YouTube channel. So before, I used to play hockey, I used to be involved in some sports, used to see some friends and whatnot. And pretty much all of that has dropped off recently. I don't have the time that I thought I did. Now, another part of that is also understanding work. So I have a lot of friends who do have work commitments outside of teachers college and outside of practicum, but they find it very, very, very stressful to keep up with that work. So the problem is with teachers college is the program is not designed for you to have work outside of school. Now they understand that some students are going to, but one of the biggest issues is that once you factor in, again, reflections, lesson planning, all of that stuff, you don't have very much time in the first place. So a lot of my friends who are picking up jobs, well, A, that is happening on weekends, or it's happening on the evenings and they're really trying to shorten down their lesson prep time. Or it affects the number of responsibilities that they can take on in their host classroom. And this is especially true when you get into your block placement. So when you get into like our 6-week block placement, where you're teaching every day for 6 weeks, most of my friends have had to take leave of absences from work for that time. They just can't balance both at the same time. But overall, it is really hard to achieve maybe the work-life balance that you had in an undergrad degree in a teacher's college degree. So I want to give you some advice on how to put yourself in the best place possible. So the first things first is know when to say no. As a student teacher, you're going to be asked to take on a ton of responsibilities. And at first it may seem that you are forced into taking on those responsibilities. And I mean, you should do your best to try to do as many of them as you can. However, it's also important to understand when you can't. If you have a massive assignment coming up for teachers college and you have to teach lessons at the same time, ask your mentor teacher if you can say, hey, can you teach these couple lessons for me? I have a lot going on and I just can't prepare for it the way that I think the students need. Or if you get asked by the principal to take on some responsibilities and make a presentation in a staff meeting, it's okay to say no if you can't do that. Another one is to prioritize your health. It is very easy as a teacher to be stuck marking and lesson planning and everything else and just sitting in a chair for 14 hours a day. But it's important that even if for half an hour or an hour, you get up and you do some exercise. Now, that doesn't need to be a run or anything else, but just doing maybe a mild workout. Maybe going outside for a nice long walk, or again, if you have a dog, you're probably having to walk them anyways. But again, it's really important to prioritize your health because your health is affecting everything else. What you eat, how active you are, everything else, it affects your mood, it affects your temperament, it affects the patience you have with students and just your overall life satisfaction. So prioritize your health. And on that note as well, learn to put down the electronics. It's something that's not easy to do in this day and age, but as a teacher, you are always looking at a screen. Maybe you're teaching online students right now in a hybrid classroom. You're preparing activities and lessons and everything on the screen. You're marking online assignments, so on and so forth. So it's super, super important that you put down the electronics and prioritize other aspects of your life when you can. And on that note, do not lose track of your friends. I know that I said that I have struggled with that recently, but no one is perfect. Personally, in teachers college, you don't get to have much of a social life, so take advantage of it when you can. Try to get together with your friends, even if it's once every couple weeks, once a month. Get on some Zoom calls with them, give them a phone call, shoot them some texts. But don't let go of those all-important friends who mean a lot to you. And then one last piece of advice. Do not stress the small stuff. It's easy to look at a lesson plan and say, oh, I should have done this better, or maybe I should do this instead of that. And there is a time for reflection, but you also don't have time to spend hours and hours and hours on reflection or making things perfect. Something will go wrong during your lesson. A student is not going to act all the time as you think. Now, put 30 students in that room. There are going to be unexpected things that come up. So don't beat yourself up over those. I'm sure, and this is speaking from experience, that your students or your mentor teacher is not going to know when something went wrong. They might give you a little bit of advice if you ask for it, but unless something goes catastrophically wrong, no one is going to notice. Don't worry about planning the perfect lesson and spending 5 hours on a single lesson, because you're going to have to teach multiple lessons in a day. You don't have that time. So leave perfection at the door and do the best that you can. But with that said, those are my top tips for achieving work-life balance as a teacher and as a student teacher. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, welcome to all the new subs from the past couple weeks. It is great to have you here. But as always, I'll see you around, so stay happy, safe, and healthy. I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.